Stream is up in 5, 4, 3, 2. And we are live, coming to you from an undisclosed location somewhere in Northeast Ohio. I'm Josh McClay, a.k.a. Omally of O'Malley's Adventure. That's Ed Lewis, City of Massillon, Council at Large, and this is Omally Live. I want to thank everybody for joining this evening. This is the last in the series of interviews with the City Council at Large candidates. It's good to have you on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me again.
So it's been sort of an interesting couple of years with COVID and everything that's going on. Council is back in chambers, which is good.
Absolutely.
I mean, we had some. I wasn't a big fan of the. What is it? WebEx is who the.
Yeah, the virtual setting. Yeah, I don't think anybody enjoyed that.
Yeah, that. But now we can do face to face. Life is good.
Uh-huh.
So I wanted to ask you about a few things. The first is the Crossing Lincoln Way. The streetscape project sort of created this. And I don't even want to say it's a problem, because here's my thoughts on it. Okay, that road's been there for 150 years at least. Mm-hmm. Okay, it is straight as a pin. You can look one way and up a hill. You can look the other way and up a hill. Something happened there, and I don't want to sort of discredit people with their worries, but my thinking is you can still cross at the intersections, right?
Correct.
What's your thoughts on the maybe or maybe not safety issue at crossing there at the center?
So I do not see an issue there either. I think there is no issue there.
Okay.
I think there's a misunderstanding possibly on the use of that crossing. I recommend to everyone, treat that particular crossing like you would any other intersection. Look left, look right? Look at the intersections. If the intersections are green, don't cross, just like you wouldn't cross if you were at the actual intersection.
Sure.
Wait till the light turns red as if you were at an intersection, and then begin to cross the street. Mm-hmm. It doesn't make sense to cross otherwise. I've done it numerous times. It's how I do it. I look around, make sure it's a red light, cross to the middle, double check to make sure traffic's not coming through, and I continue through. It's actually easier because you only have to cross 20 feet compared to having to cross 50 to 60 feet if you go all the way down to the intersection.
Sure.
And because if you get caught with traffic, you can stand in the middle,
right,
which is 10 feet wide. It's a whole lane wide. It's safe. There is brick and everything around you.
Sure.
And then you continue on. The other nice thing about that area is because it has not shrank. It is the same size it has always been when you drive through town.
Right.
10-foot lanes.
Right.
Just it is what it is.
My thinking on it is, for me, it's easier as a pedestrian versus driving a vehicle. Because if I'm driving through there, if somebody was opening their car door, you move left a little bit. With the island there, you got to be a little bit more careful. But as a pedestrian, I mean, it's straight. I mean, I think, and I get they want to do something because there's complaints. But at some point, you don't want to be in a position where you're trying to legislate safety, because that doesn't work. Mm-hmm. I mean, there has to be a consequence for being unsafe, but to simply pass something to make it safe, I think that's happy talk. I don't think it's realistic.
Exactly. And I'm a data-driven guy.
Mm-hmm.
Show me the proof.
Right.
Right now, through that portion of downtown, First and Erie, on Lincoln Way, mm-hmm. the average speed in any direction is either 28 or 29 miles per hour. Speed limit's only 25.
Right.
So yes, is it speeding? Sure.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only by a couple of miles per hour on average. So yes, you do have the occasional high one, but you got to remember when a police car or an ambulance goes through there, that speed is clocked and put into the average as well.
Sure.
So, there's things going on there, but people for the most part are going about the speed limit through that area. It's safe. It is very pedestrian friendly. Mm-hmm. You just have to use your mind a little bit and make sure that you make good decisions.
Right. Like I said, it's straight. Um, and you would almost not want to put more signage because then does it make it more distracting to the driver?
And that is the concern. You know, I do want to say though that through all this, I still want to commend Jim Therrett, who was a leading person in this. Now, him and I might have different views on this particular issue, but it's something that is the hallmark of this council and that he's embodied. And trying to listen to the citizens, right? You know, trying to hear what they have to say, trying to make some corrections. In this particular circumstance, though, sometimes over engineering can actually make it less safe, which is what you were alluding to.
Yeah. So, okay. Let's move on to animal control.
Yes.
Now, animal control, I remember when we had Vicky, right? Probably not going to replace her. She comes along once in a while. But I haven't heard anybody say they don't want animal control. And we've been talking about it since the last election cycle.
Jason Harris.
Yes. And it's still sort of not happened the way the people sort of envision it. I'm not sure whether or not having it as a police officer or some type of code enforcement, but the people do want it. What's your thoughts? Is it something that would be more law enforcement or more code enforcement?
It's a mixture. Okay, so I think the liaison or the person that you would see or call animal control is code enforcement.
Okay.
But when it comes to after hours or criminal offense, that's legal.
Right.
You know, and that's how it's always operated. Even when we had Vicki Davis, I mean, she worked incredible hours. That woman was a gem of the city. I mean, I don't think anyone can argue that, right?
Sure.
But she had to go to sleep sometime.
Right.
And when she was sleeping, a police officer had to respond.
Sure.
Same concept will still exist. What the mayor is proposing right now is that, you know, we keep it in the code enforcement. They will have a dedicated code enforcement officer that will be essentially the key liaison. They would be the person that you would call if you have a complaint or a concern. They'd be the person that would come and check on situations such as maybe a malnourished animal, multiple stray cats in one area. Whatever that complaint is, they would check and do the follow-up and coordinate that the proper services were put in place.
Right.
The issue we have right now is that council, thanks to Mark Lombardi, who did lead the charge on the animal control officer position or liaison position, it needs to be funded.
Right.
We can pass all the legislation we want for positions. If we don't fund it, it means nothing.
Right.
So recently I advocated with the mayor, and it looks like that possibly next year, as long as council agrees with me, which I think they will, we'll have $100,000 dedicated to animal control services. And so what that means is that will put us in a situation where maybe we won't have the Vicki Davis.
Right.
But we'll have the money to contract with someone.
Sure.
You know, maybe doing a little bit of trap, neuter, release, if you're familiar with that program for stray cats. Do a little bit of that to help get the cat population under control. Whatever the case may be, we'll have a nice fund source to start to think outside the box and get creative where we have the animal control effects, but maybe not exactly the officer in the same traditional capacity.
Okay.
Just trying to get creative and make sure we still get the same end game, though.
Sure. When does council approve a budget?
The last meeting of the year. So, you know, basically December, whatever.
Sure.
The week before the end of the year.
Okay. And it would be in that?
It wouldn't be in that budget. So I have proposed it to be part of what we call ARPA funds. ARPA funds are the 16.2 million federal dollars that are coming into the city.
Okay.
As part of COVID relief.
Okay.
The reason I've proposed it to be in there is because it doesn't affect our bottom line in a year-to-year way. And it's money that we can then use and see how effective it is.
Okay.
If it all gets used, it basically gives us time to play.
Sure.
And see what is working, what is not working, and how best to utilize the dollars. And then when it comes time to next year to use a local appropriation, we'll have it fine-tuned and we'll be able to spend local dollars intelligently.
Sure.
Using the federal dollars to assist us in learning.
Right. Sure. The last one is the rental fee. And The rental fee, I'm going to put my libertarian opinion out there.
Yes.
Okay. Um, if the codes that are going to be enforced on the rental properties are the same codes that are going to be enforced on property owners in general, why is it only the landlords that would be paying?
I get it. That's what, this comes up every couple of years.
Okay.
If you watch every couple of
Sure.
years, they want to play with the fee structure, whatever.
Right.
And I'm always opposed
Right.
or fighting it. And this time I was like, you can't do this if it's a money grab, right?
Right.
You don't want a money grab.
Sure.
So this is what I have countered. Because you're right. Everybody needs to be held accountable to the same way.
Sure.
Same thing. It's like if you want to impose this fee on landlords, you have to create some kind of kickback that benefits landlords. Don't
Sure.
just take the money out of their pocket.
Right.
So I said, look, if you're going to do this, what are you going to use the money for? I'm not giving you a blank
Right.
checkbook here.
Sure.
I'm not telling all my because landlords get a bad name.
Sure.
There's some bad landlords out there.
There are.
No
Yep.
doubt. But at the end of the day, landlords are investors of the property of Massillon.
Mm-hmm.
And when properly incentivized, they will improve their properties,
Right.
which improves the value of properties everywhere around them.
Sure.
So that's what we want to do. So I proposed to them, I said, hey, if you want to do rental fees, then this is what we're going to use the money for. We're going to use some of it for animal control,
Mm-hmm.
which is interestingly segue there.
Right.
We're going to use some of it for a vacant property tear down. I call it localized NIP.
Right.
So homes that are no longer being able to be remodeled, they're just too far gone. We need to get them down.
Sure.
We used to get money from the county to do that. That money's gone away.
Okay.
So we can use this fee to replace that. The rest of that money goes into a grant program for those who pay into it. So if you pay your rental fees on time, then once every 3 years, you can apply for a grant on one of your properties where we pay up to 50% of a maintenance or an upgrade to the home. And then you, with a cap on it.
Sure.
But essentially then, as a landowner that is subject to these fees, let's say over the course of 3 years, you end up having to pay $2,000 in fees, but if you get $3,000 back in a grant,
Right.
you took away some of your liberty in the sense that you don't get to just use that money how you want.
Sure.
But at least you got it back
Sure.
in one form or another. So that was how I said, look, if you really think you need this, fine,
Right.
but make sure there's a program that benefits landlords in that. Take the money with a purpose.
And something that I wish I would have put out earlier is the amount of money that's actually collected from code enforcement violations. What does that number look like?
Well, we need to learn more about that because, I'm very much like you in the sense that I don't like to just tax or charge fees. It's,
Right.
Whatever you call it, it's all the same, right?
Sure.
It's government's taxing.
Right.
I don't want to support that without specifically stating why
Sure.
and getting at least somewhat of a citizen consent, right?
Right.
But you're right. If there's a violation, why aren't we going after the violations harder?
Right.
Why and making that more subject,
Right. And someone brought up to me today, and I wasn't even going in this direction, but probably the most violated code in the city right now that I see is putting yard waste in the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's not just landlords, that's everybody.
Everybody.
And what worries me is that the landlords are going to pass it on to the renter, so it becomes sort of a poor man's tax.
Mm-hmm.
And that once that money starts flowing, that codes won't be enforced because some are saying that they're not being enforced now. That's why I personally would like to see maybe the numbers associated with code enforcement. Anytime I see fees, because my thought is if it's that much of a problem, just put it on the sewer bill.
Mm-hmm.
Just put like a $5 fee for code enforcement, right? $2. Even if somebody doesn't pay that bill, I believe it goes to the county, and then if the property transfers,
It gets locked on.
sure. I would be comfortable everybody's paying.
Yeah, but that's That's not sexy, Josh.
You know?
It's a lot nicer to go after the big mean landlords.
Well, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's why it gets presented that way. To
Sure.
us. But to that point, I mean, you hear council people saying, "Well, give me the evidence of what you've done so far," and we haven't quite seen it. And that's why every couple of years, I'm like, you know, you just keep saying, "Give me higher fees, give me more money, and I can solve this problem."
Right.
And in true government fashion, the problem never gets solved, no matter how much more money I throw at it.
Sure.
Right? And that is why I propose the alternative. Like, if you're going to push this,
Right.
then we're
Put
you're
an
making
incentive.
every dollar for something.
Sure. Okay. Maybe after the election, revisiting that. I think that would
Absolutely.
be that one has my interest for some reason.
Well, right now it's dead, so no one's doing anything about it
Right. For now.
for now.
Last question. You get elected in the next 2 years. If you could only pick 2 pieces of legislation to pass, what would they be?
Number one, I want to make sure our police and fire both are paid in a more competitive manner. I feel like we are under compensating our safety forces. I know we have to be careful. We do have budgetary concerns, so it's not an open checkbook just
Sure.
to do whatever. But we have to get creative, and we need to find a way to make sure that these men and women get what they deserve as far as the form of compensation, so that we can attract and retain
Yeah.
the ones that we have.
Sure.
I've said before, you can't blame any employee of the City of Massillon who goes to another community in order to be better compensated.
Right.
You got to take care of your family.
Right.
You know? So it's not their fault. It is the fault of the city of not being able to stay competitive.
Sure.
So I want to make sure we're more competitive. I want us to be one of the more attractive places. Massillon's a great place.
Sure.
And it's a lovely place to live and to raise your family. Not only do I want these officers to come here, but I want them to see that, you know what, the pay's good, the community's good. I'm going to live here too.
Sure.
But when you have bad pay, they're not buying a
They're
home
not staying. Right.
because they know they're going to leave.
Right.
And that's not their fault. That's
Right.
them taking care of their own, and nobody
Sure.
can fault them for that. So that'd be the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Number two, you know, I feel like since we divided the parks and the city a few years ago, right? They're
Right.
together, but they got their own boards. I would like to see somehow we add funding or something to the Parks and Recreation Board so that they can attack the parks like Lincoln Park. Lincoln Park should be a premier park. We have huge tournaments for the disc golf. I don't disc golf,
Right.
but it's a big thing.
Sure.
I mean, we should have a big old parking lot in there. I know they're working on a pavilion with restrooms.
Right.
It should be a premier location, and we should host more tournaments there. Why not? It brings people to the city.
Sure.
It'd be a great attraction. Community park with all those great ball fields. That needs to make sure it's getting properly maintained and built up. SIPO needs to be continued to worked on and have more family-friendly things.
Right.
So we know they have good funds, but we need to add more funding and more projects for them so that Steve Pedro and his team can do better.
Sure. Well, that's all I have, except for with you, I have a special one. You are the senior sort of council at large person,
Yes.
right? Any future plans past council at large?
You know, I plan on living. Does that count?
Political plans.
Political plans?
Political plans.
You know, I don't know. It's hard to say. You know, people ask me all the time. And, you know, we were just chatting
Right.
before this
Yeah.
about my 14-year-old daughter.
Yeah.
And she almost gave me a heart attack tonight. So, you know, we jokingly say living.
Yeah.
But a 14-year-old daughter, I think that's a legitimate
Yeah.
thing. It's just hard for me to say. I know a lot of people out there are supportive of me and they would like to see me take other steps
Right.
in growth. But to be honest, I think whatever my family situation is and wherever my kids need me,
Right.
that's the direction I'll go.
Sure.
So I can't make a promise, but I will say there's a few enticing opportunities
Sure.
that will be heavily considered.
Gotcha. That's all I have. Do you have anything else you want to say before the election?
Please get out and vote November 2nd. Vote Ed Lewis. And if you like a few other people, go ahead and vote for them too. But please vote Ed Lewis as well.
Yes. Absolutely, get out and vote. It is a right. That is my thoughts on voting. Get out, just do it. Pick somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that's all I have until after the election. After the election, I think some things will smooth out. Time is, you can always get a second job to make more money.
Absolutely.
You cannot make more time.
You cannot.
So, anyway, that's it for now. Until next time, stay sharp, keep a tight shot group, and rock on. Peace.